Okay, we will call the council meeting to order at 7:01 PM and rise for pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to item 3, is anybody here for public comment period? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4, approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any additions?
I just have one under others, I just got a question.
Okay, perfect.
I have none.
Hunter, you golden?
I have none.
Excellent. Make a motion to approve the agenda. Oh, Hunter got that one. You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and that carries. And number 5, approval of the consent agenda, items A and B, with claims totaling $39,137.30.
Are these together or are they separate?
Together.
Together. Yep.
I still make a motion to approve the consent agenda A and B and the claims for February 25th, 2025 totaling $39,137.30.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And that carries. Item 6, Attorney Ken Jansen will not be in today, and I have not had an update from him for anything pressing, so, okay. Moving to number 7, we have Paul with Burkhart and Burkhart. Paul, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. You have the floor, good sir.
Thank you. Well, I also want to appreciate the opportunity to come and present online tonight. Definitely appreciate being able to stay in the office and get some work done. So thank you. So I'm just going to take a little bit of your time and go over a presentation that will be on the screen momentarily. We're going to talk about some responsibilities that management has over the city's financials that we have as your audit firm. Talk about some of the audit results we had for this year's audit. Some required communications that we have, a few recommendations that we are giving the city this year, and then we'll go over some financial highlights. So I will share my screen. And then we will go over the presentation. So we're going to start with management's responsibilities, and that is the city clerk treasurer, who is responsible for not only the city's basic financial statements, but also for the maintenance of internal control. For the basic financial statements, management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of those statements to include selecting appropriate accounting policies in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and accounting estimates, and really all of the accounting decisions that are in those financial statements. Management is also responsible for the maintenance of internal control. And that's just a accounting way speak of saying that making sure that there are processes in place and that they're suitably designed and implemented to be able to safeguard assets. Now, keep in mind that assets are not only cash that you have in a bank, but it's all the assets of the city, to include City Hall, all the work vehicles, any other equipment that the city owns. So assets are not only just the cash in the bank. And if and when there are misstatements that happen, mistakes, if you look at the backspace on my keyboard, you can't even see the word backspace because I hit it so many times. And that's really what we're going for here. Here is that everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has errors that occur. But as long as those are caught in a timely fashion and corrected, that's what we are looking for. We do issue 3 reports over the financial statements. The first one is the report on the financials. We do conduct the audit in accordance with generally accepted government auditing standards, or commonly called Yellow Book, that has to do with some of the debt that the city holds. And we do obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Now, what does that mean? That means when you look at your audit report and you see that you ended the 2024 with $1.9 million in cash, that we have audit evidence to support that. We have bank reconciliations, we have bank statements, we have bank confirmations from the bank to be able to support that number. And that really goes for all the numbers that are in the financial statements to include the disclosures. We have evidence, we have documents and reports to support and back all of those numbers. We also issue a report on internal control. We look at various laws, provisions, regulations, and we don't look at internal control. You see at the bottom there in the center box that we do not give an opinion on the effectiveness of internal controls. What we do is we look at internal controls and we understand them to help us better design our audit procedures to be more effective and more efficient. If we see something, we will certainly bring it to the council's attention that, hey, we saw this. This might be something you want to tweak or change or adjust in the coming year. It's kind of the same flavor with the report on Minnesota legal compliance. We get several different checklists from the state auditor dealing with cash deposits, claim disbursements, capital asset purchases, debt, miscellaneous provisions, various other laws and regulations that we look over as we're going through the different audit areas. Again, this is not designed to uncover all instances of non-compliance, but if we do see something where a state law was not followed, we will certainly bring it to the council's attention. Some summary over these audit results. The first one, the financial opinion, is what we call an unmodified or a clean audit opinion. That means that the statements and the footnotes are what we call fairly stated. So there are no material differences in the audit report that we were provided that we did our audit on. We did have one internal control finding, limited segregation of duties. This is just a consequence of having a small office staff. 98% of our clients that we do audit work for have this finding in there. So it's very common with smaller organizations. It's just due to not having the funds and the resources to be able to hire additional staff. So how we recommend to overcome this limitation is just to make sure that you're staying aware, that you have good oversight, that if you're looking at something and it doesn't make sense, it's not just because you don't understand it, it's maybe just because it doesn't make sense. And that's when you get your hand up in the air and start asking questions, and that's just good oversight responsibility. We did have one legal compliance finding this year. We did note in our sample of disbursements that there were 3 that were paid over 35 days. Given that the council meets monthly, you have 35 days when you get the receipt of an invoice to pay that claim. And there were 3 instances in our invoice sample where that threshold was not met. So required communications that we like to give all of our councils. You do have our assurance, so we did plan and perform our audit to maintain reasonable but not absolute assurance. So what that means, everyone thinks, well, you had an audit, that means that everything is perfect and everything is exactly where it needs to go. And that's just not the case. There's no guarantees with an audit. Do we do a lot of sampling and looking at documents? Yes, we do. But it's not a forensic audit. We don't look at every single penny coming through the checking account, and we don't look at every single transaction. We just don't have that kind of time. And I'm sure the council doesn't want to pay us to take that time to go through that level of detail. So that's why I'd say it's reasonable. And that means that there's no material, it's not significantly different than the documents and the information that we were provided. The significant accounting policies are in note 1 of the financial statements. There were no new standards that were applied and adopted by the city for this year. We did not note any unusual transactions during our audit. And all of these significant accounting adjustments are the same as last year. We found that they were still valid and still reasonably supported with the allocation of wages across all the different departments and the funds in the city, and also dealing with several contingencies. One more slide on required communications. We did propose no journal entries, and there were no uncorrected adjustments. So the team at Avenue, Julie does a very good job, her team. We certainly appreciate the help that Diane provided to us at fieldwork. Management was very cooperative, very helpful as always. So we definitely like to commend her. And when we have the support of management and the accounting team, that definitely makes our job as auditors much, much easier. So we definitely want to say thank you. And we appreciate all the hard work they've put into the 2024 audit. We do have a couple recommendations. We would like the council and the city to consider maybe taking some of their excess deposits and trying to get a little bit higher return. We have noted that the 4M fund, a lot of our other cities that are in the 4M fund are doing very, very good on their returns. And what is nice about the 4M fund versus doing certificates of deposit is that this investment pool is liquid. You can put cash in and you can take cash out whenever you want with no penalty, and you're still earning a very high interest rate. So definitely something to look into, taking those excess funds that are just kind of sitting around and putting that to good use. So we recommend the city looking into get a hold of 4M to see if there's any amount of money that can be put over there and start getting some better return on that money. As we're going to see here a little bit, the utility rates. I tell every council that I meet with, you should always be raising utility rates every single year. And the reason why is obviously inflation, raises that you would like to give to your employees, and just the cost of doing business and a utility fund never goes down. It never stays the same. The cost of repairs and maintenance and salaries and benefits are always going up. So you need to keep the rates in line with that increase. And specifically, as we're going to see here in a couple of slides, the water fund more specifically needs help than the sewer fund. So now we're going to spend a couple of minutes going over some financial highlights and some financial trends for the city for 24. Overall, your cash did increase by about $264,000. The unassigned fund balance of the general fund was approximately 80% of the expenditures, which is a very good ratio. And the days of reserves increase in both the governmental and the business type activities. So now we're going to go over the next couple of slides here, kind of get into some more kind of high level numbers. We're not going to go super in depth. We're certainly not going to go over the audit report page by page. Just kind of hit some high level metrics here. You can see this bar graph here. It shows the last 5 years of your cash balances. If you kind of draw a line here, you can definitely see that your cash balances are going up. Governmental activities is going to be primarily your general fund, but it's going to be other general government activities that are not business type activities like your water and sewer funds. Those are the enterprise or the business type activities. So the governmental activities are all the other funds of the city other than those types. And so you can ask yourself, well, what does it mean that we have $1.5 million of cash in a governmental activity? It seems like a lot. What does that mean? What we like to do is we like to take that number and put it into a days of reserves. So what we do is we take your ending cash balance over 365 and say, okay, how long could you go in an average year if all cash inflows were to stop and you were to maintain level spending on average over the last 5 years? How long could you go before you ran out of money? As you can see that you're well over a year for governmental activities, about 16 months in the governmental activities, and roughly about 14 months in the business type activities, which is above where we recommend our cities to be. We always say that 12-month mark is really where you want to be. And you can see you guys are well above that. So it means you have a lot of good cash reserves and a good, strong financial position really across the entire city. So then we'd like to show some components of fund balance for the general fund, given that the general fund is the main operating fund of a city. You can see that the fund balance has been kind of up and down the last couple of years, down just a little bit this year. However, the fund balance is doing very well. And you can see that in that table down below. We show the cash fund balance percentage as a ratio of expenditures. We're at 78% for this year. Which is down a little bit from 2023. But the OSA recommends roughly 30 to 40% for this ratio. We, however, like to recommend 75%. And you ask yourself, well, Paul, why are you so much harder on us than the OSA? That's because we read a lot of bond ratings. We get a lot of bond documents. And a lot of the bond rating companies say 75% is where they like to see their cities at to get that highest bond rating. And you can see that box is green down below. So you do have an excess fund balance ratio from what we recommend of 164,000. You can see that you're above that. So definitely, even though it is down a little bit this year, you can see that the fund balance of the general fund is still very strong. And hopefully we'll see some rebound here in 25. Here's a real quick summary of your general fund budget actual. So you can see that your receipts were over budget by $262,000. This is primarily driven by some budget variances in the rent, which is over budget around $50,000. Donations, which are hard to budget for, were over budget by $50,000 as well. And your permits were over budget by $100,000. So we recommend the council take a look at their revenue budget, maybe make some tweaks where it is appropriate based on the last couple of years. We always recommend looking at the last 3 years for doing budgets. I know that the building permits have been very strong in the city's last couple of years. So maybe adjusting those budgets to reflect those historical averages might be something you want to take a look at. We do see some red in there for the disbursements. The current disbursements were over budget by $203,000, mainly driven by the public works being over budget by $100,000. Building inspections were over by 40, and the general government was over budget by 40,000 as well. You can see the capital outlay. There were probably just some capital purchases that maybe weren't anticipated. Things like that definitely happen. Things break down. You got to buy new equipment. Maybe you didn't anticipate that during budget season. So that's reasonable. But the overspending of the budget in the disbursements definitely was covered by the excess receipts that were brought in by the city this year. And overall, the very bottom, there was a small loss in the general fund this year, just $4,700. So not bad. But like I said on the previous slide, fund balance is still good. Obviously cash is going up, and that's really the important thing to say here, is that even though there was a small loss in the general fund, that the financial position of the general fund is still very strong. So one more slide we're gonna look at here, cash flows for enterprise funds. The reason why we like to look at cash flows is because these enterprise funds exist to create cash from operating activities. They are supposed to be self-sustaining funds and to be able to generate profit on their own. As I mentioned in a couple of slides ago, the water fund, as you can see, there's a lot of red in that column. Even just like cash from operating activities, which what that is the money that you charge to customers versus just the normal operating expenditures that you're paying for repairs and maintenance, for supplies, for people service, is not enough to cover all of the disbursements that are coming out of the water fund. And then there's some other interfund activity, obviously some debt service payments in there. The interfund activity was able to bring the cash balance of the water fund back down to zero. But as you can see, the historical increases, decreases in cash for the water fund needs some help. It needs the rates to go up to be able to cash flow. So that doesn't need to keep borrowing money from the sewer fund to be able to stay at least flat and have zero cash. The sewer fund and refuse funds, a lot of good results over there. Definitely plenty of cash flow in the sewer fund at 82,000, even though it borrowed money over to the water fund to help zero out that negative cash, and even with the debt service payments was still able to increase cash $34,000 in that fund, and historically has been about that. If you look at the 5-year average, the sewer fund is averaging about 37,000 every year of cash increase. And even the refuse fund, which I don't see a whole lot of positive cash flow in the refuse fund, but it's definitely nice to see that the refuse fund is averaging around $8,000 increases every year. So we need to help out the water fund. We need to get those rates up so that the water fund can keep pace with the sewer and the refuse fund. That's all I got for the financial numbers. We do like to give our contact information out to all of our councils. We audit a lot of different cities. We audit over 40 different cities, a lot of different nonprofits. We see a lot of different things done a lot of different ways. And we certainly like to offer our services and our resources if throughout the year the council were to have any questions or need to run anything by us. Certainly reach out and let us know. And once again, just thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to come present the audit results for 24. Are there any questions from the council over anything I've presented so far?
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Anyone?
You know, water's always been the case every year. We don't want to do it, but we're gonna eventually have to do it again.
And
You can
then,
tell it right here.
in 2023, was that big hike there from when we did the people services contract and stuff? Is that why that was so much there for the water?
Yeah, I don't know if Paul can see that on there, the hike from 2023 people service contract may have been related to that, and I'm sure Julie is chimed, there she is.
Yes, yes, the big increase in the general fund was actually due to people services. And I'll just add to that, with the water fund, we did change the way we're budgeting for the people service contract for 2025. So the water sewer portion of people services will now be split between the two funds and not just going to the water fund.
Yeah, we did take that hike with people's service, but some of that stuff got blended back in to other budget items too, so really don't know really yet how good that's been to us.
Well, 24 showed a nice change and it finally caught up. Yeah, it was
How
just
we
that one
started
year.
with, you know, and budgeted that much money.
And then Julie, we did the CD investment piece instead of the 4M fund, correct? I mean, I'm not too familiar with the 4M, but we did the CD route. Paul, are you seeing any cities focusing solely on CDs with that return mainly, or is people really going to this 4M quite a bit?
Yeah, we're actually CD rates have really gone up these last couple
Yeah.
of years. You're seeing, you know, anywhere from 3.5% to 4.5% on CDs. But like I said, what the benefit of the 4M fund is, it's liquid. With a CD, you put it there, you can't touch it for 12 months without penalty. But with a 4M fund, you can take $50,000, stick it in the 4M fund, and then you're like, oh shoot, our lift station just went down. We need to shell out $20,000. And you can immediately the next day draw $20,000 out of your 4M fund with no penalty at all. It's 100% liquid, and you get about the same return as you would for a CD.
That's what I was just gonna ask too.
It seems something really to look into.
Yeah, and there's no reason, I don't think, why we couldn't do both, because the council agreed. We've had is it 100 sitting in there?
Correct.
100,000 sitting in a CD, so might be worthwhile for us to look at, try to.
Yeah, that way you can keep some money with a local bank. Obviously you want to, do that, and I think that's important as well. But like you said, Mr. Mayor, there's no reason why you can't diversify some of your investments, and the 4M fund is a great tool to use for cities.
Make note to look at that one. Anything else? Perfect. Thank you so much, Paul. We appreciate it.
Yep, thank you guys. Everyone have a great night.
You as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Good news, good work, Diane. I know that was a lot. Always busy during audit season. All right, move on to number 8, school update. Do we have any info
I
at this
did
point?
reach out to the bank today to see if there was a time for our meeting yet, but they're still waiting for their appraisal.
Okay. And I'll let our city attorney know as well that no updates as of today, still pending appraisal. We don't know any status on that process, correct? Okay. All right. And number 9, ordinance 2025-01, the truck route. Just pending additional information, and we have a public hearing next week. Well, not additional information, public hearing next week on that. We'll just table it if the council's okay with that. So I'll make a motion to table that to the next council meeting to occur right after our public hearing.
I'll second too.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I
Pose same sign, and that carries. And 10, EDA planning and zoning updates.
We had a busy first EDA meeting with 2 businesses. One business we've been working with for a while, but we have 2 new EDA members, so they introduced themselves and told their backstory and their plans to the new members. And then we had another business that is interested in buying a lot and building, and they presented their idea to the EDA. We expect them to come up with a plan to the next meeting. Planning and zoning, we had a special meeting to approve the changes to the comp plan and approve the ordinance and the resolution for the ordinance. We're planning a joint meeting between the planning and zoning and EDA in April.
Perfect. It's quarterly, we try to do those, correct? Just to keep the involvement between the two. Excellent. Any more for us on that? Perfect. All right, and then park board updates.
We had a busy first meeting there as well. Discussed our goals for 2025. We also started planning for this year's Easter egg hunt. We landed on April 12th for that Easter egg hunt this year, and I believe we're trying to have that posted at the Irish Field Pavilion. Hopefully weather holds out for us there. Just going back to our goals though that we discussed for 2025, a lot of them focused around the Lions Park. There's a lot of little and big improvements that need to happen there, so that's gonna be our what the park board focuses on this year.
That's a good park to focus on, because that's used quite a bit. You know, it's
With playground, and everything else, pavilion.
like April 12th, Irish Field, and then I think, were we gonna check with the fire department just for the backup, or just we'll wing it? I think we can wing it still, but
I don't recall if anybody checked with the fire department, but we discussed that and we don't think there'll be enough space in there
that's what I was concerned about too, but
and a lack of parking in that area.
fair. Yeah, because we had a huge turnout last year, so.
Yeah.
We'll beat the rain, we can do it. Do we have a time on that, Hunter, or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Our next meeting is,
Mhm.
I want to say next Thursday,
Oh, okay.
March,
But it is the
Whatever.
5th on my calendar in front of me.
but that's when we'll iron out the rest of the details there.
Excellent.
March 6th.
6, okay. Thank you, sir. And then 12 Church Street updates, anything on that? Nothing?
I had a resident approach me regarding Church Street / Church Avenue.
Yeah,
And they are indicating that on the website, it says Avenue. So it's not gonna find Church Street.
okay.
And I'm not sure the history of how it was named or what happened. And I'm not sure how we go about renaming.
So
If it really doesn't need to be renamed and the sign just happens to say Church Street.
yeah, I can do some digging on that. So
Okay.
did he say it was, yeah, our signage states Church Street.
But if you go on to Google Map,
Okay,
it says
Church
Church
Avenue.
Avenue.
okay.
And when you try and get directions, so I don't know, like with a delivery truck, where it's gonna take them.
Right. No, that's good. I'll do some digging into that because I know we have some GIS addressing global.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we'll do some digging and we'll put that on the next agenda as an update. Let's say,
Hopefully it's something minor, I would think. Hopefully.
I would hope, yeah, it just,
Just a switch.
well, Google is, you can submit to Google and they can update an address. I've always known it as Church Street, so
Same.
could just be an error on Google Maps.
My Google Maps has Church Street.
Does it?
Oh, it does?
Yeah,
But when you get to the other end of that road, it becomes 365th Avenue.
Yep. Does that show up on there too, Hunter? I bet it might, yeah.
yes.
But does that
Yeah,
designate
365th
Avenue?
Avenue,
And then Lake
north
Aaron
of
is,
Shamrock.
Lake Aaron, does that show up as Gulf of Green Isle?
Not yet.
All right. Just wanted to check.
Had to go there.
All right, so yes, we'll do some digging into that. And then now, number 13, vacant council position. We did perform interviews and we tried to keep the process as objective fair as possible. Each one of us got to interview on the HR committee, and during the process, we tally up the scores and go for the average. Those that were interviewed. So we did a total of 7 interviews. And council members that were not present at the interviews, you guys should have the packet of all applicants so that you're aware of who applied and what they initially put in there. The entirety of them all. And our goal was to bring forth the top 3 candidates. And it doesn't mean you can't vote for any others in that paper, but you voted to assign us to look into that. So, and we did. So the top 3 candidates that we have based on interview scores average. And I do have to say with 7 people, everybody did pretty dang good at interviews. Everybody had some great ideas. So we have Harrison, DeBoer, Sean Harms, and Sheldon Matthews as the top three. And of course, you have everybody that applied in that packet to look at as well. Following review, once you kind of peek through some of that stuff, HR committee would basically be waiting on a motion for anybody you'd recommend to move forward. And then it would come to a vote. How that works, since we are voting on a vacant council position, it's the only time the mayor has the authority to do a tie-breaking vote if there's a tie. And so that's, in case anybody asks, what if it's a hung vote? That's what it is, so. And that's for the League of Minnesota Cities, for a vacant council position. Questions from anyone yet while they're thinking?
Guess I'd be curious to hear, since I wasn't in the
Mhm.
interviews, is there one that you would recommend?
There, honestly, any of the top three, and that's the challenging part for me, because we talked about that, I'd even expand it to the top five. I mean, we had great interviews, really, really good interviews. I was very impressed, and all these people are highly interested in serving, and it's not just serving for their own needs, it's for the city itself. Which was really good to see, and I think that they would all have a good relationship with this council and work together and vote for the community and the objectives. So I can't pick one or the other. I mean, I can, but if you're asking me out of all of them, as a committee member, I probably wouldn't recommend one right away. Unless I need to, but.
But the names that I have.
Best 2 out of 3, flip a quarter.
Flip a quarter. No, I like this way of doing it, though. We had averages, everybody had the same questions. And they're all graded as such, based on their answers.
Can I ask you this? On the averages, was everybody like within probably close to 5? Because what I can remember, what I was probably with 5 points kind of separates everybody at the most.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So within separation here, we have 18.67. Yeah, here's one with a separation of 0.17.
So yeah,
And
it was pretty close.
It was very close. And I'm happy to go in order of scores too, if that helps for the three.
I'll make a motion to go on scores.
Oh, you don't, yeah. Oh,
Don't need a motion, just
I'll just tell you what the scores are, then you can make a motion on the person then. We have Harrison DeBoer is scoring the highest, and then Sean Harms in second, and Sheldon Matthews in third.
also make a motion for Harrison DeBoer for the vacant county or council member seat.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
All second.
Perfect. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. And that carries. And congratulations, Harrison. But everybody did phenomenal on as interviewees and it was really nice to see. So hopefully come election time after the 2-year term, we have people that'll run for it. We talked to those that were on the panel to possibly be involved in committees because I really think that they would do good on some of these. We have some vacancies, EDA, planning and zoning, just to get more involvement. Cause I was amazed at some of the comments they had and ideas. And I'd hate to put it to waste to not have them serve in some capacity, so. Alright. So Hunter will be prepped for his swearing in. We'll let Marilee know,
Yours.
Harrison.
or no, over at the county, so that she's aware.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yeah, I know Harrison.
You
Yeah,
said my name.
Marilee, no,
Hunter. You said,
did I say that?
you said Hunter.
I'm sorry, Hunter, you're new
I'm
too.
already sworn in.
Yeah,
It's okay.
that was my moment
Yes.
for the day. Maybe I've got a few.
So yes, I will let Marilee know.
Marilee will know about
Yeah.
Harrison. All right, and Sean, your other item, good sir.
Well, now I got two.
Uh-oh,
So my first one is now because Harrison being on city council, I will step down from planning and zoning. So then that way, so you don't have 3 council members on planning and zoning because you can only have 2 for quorum. So the other people that were interviewed or that are here now, that is open, so if they are still interested in it.
yeah, we'll reach out to the finalists and, well, actually, yeah, I mean, we can go down the list here and call and see.
Okay, and then my other is, I am going to start looking at roads again already.
Mhm.
And I was just gonna let you know now and then talk to Mark about it, because I know we already have a couple that were on the list that we didn't do last year that we're probably thinking about doing now, is like Fifth Street over there, and then I know the fire department, they made a comment about the road and stuff around the fires. That's the alley kind of,
Oh, the alleyway,
the alleyway kind of needs some work.
it needs a lot of work.
I think we should probably start looking at that again, so we can get the bids out and see what else.
I've got a few for you too, I can.
So we can get it started again like we did last year and get ahead of it. And maybe we'll be lucky and they'll have something close where they can
Mm-hmm.
zip in and do it again like they did last time.
Well, that alley, would that just be, that's gonna need to probably be dug up eventually.
Some probably grading issue there too.
Yeah.
It's probably maybe a couple inches thick.
Yeah, the erosion is getting bad and I can't imagine now with the freezing and thawing coming up.
Cause then I will have to talk to Diane too and see if I can get Pearson Brothers again. And talk to for about steel coating, a couple of other streets now that. We're kind of trying to get in a cycle of doing stuff and keeping up.
I did have an email from them
Okay,
early, like maybe a few weeks ago,
okay,
asking if we were gonna be doing streets again, and yes, I just indicated to him, yes, we would be doing it, is all I answered.
so that's, we just gotta figure out which ones we wanna do this.
Correct.
That's all I have.
Perfect. And number 15. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I.
Pose same sign. And that carries meetings adjourned at 7:40.